Well, boys, the Dawning 2021 is here, and unlike past year's Dawnings, there's actually some things worth farming for. Like, it's actually worth your time to play the Dawning. I know it's crazy. Those things being weapons. Yeah, we had the SMG last year that could roll with Dragonfly, but that was a bug and got fixed. And then the Avalanche a few years back when it was one of like 2 solar legendary LMGs in the game. But this year we have 4 Dawning weapons, with all of them having really good perk combinations that you're gonna want to be on the lookout for. That's right, boys, Papa myfi is back, and with me I bring God Rolls for all the new Dawning weapons. But before we get started talking about these juicy rolls, if you're new and only if you enjoy my videos or have ever found them useful, then feel free to subscribe. Okay, to the video. So I'm first going to go over each weapon, its rolls, and its God rolls. Then at the end of the video, go over the absolute fastest way to farm these weapons. So if you're interested in that, well, then stick around to the end. First up is going to be Avalanche. And for all the weapons that have been in previous Dawnings, just know that they do have some changes in their perk pools, so they're not just exact carbon copies. Okay, maybe they are a little bit, but yeah, they do have some new perks. The Avalanche is a 450 RPM adaptive frame solar machine gun. Stats on screen now, but let's get into the perks. In column 1, we find a plethora of sight options. Now, to be honest, it doesn't really matter too much what you get in this column. I would recommend going for something with 0 zoom so you can see as much as possible when you're ADSing, but it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. The sights that have 0 zoom are the SLO 12 post, the SLO 21 post, and the SLO 10 post. All of these sights have 0 zoom, as well as either a bonus to handling, range, or both. Next, for column 2, just like column 1, we find a plethora of perks. Now, with this being an LMG and only having a mag size of 57, well, we're gonna need to get that up. My number 1 pick here is Extended Mag. Yes, it does take your reload from 4.7 seconds to 5.1 seconds, but it also takes your mag size from 57 to 71. Also, with the column 3 perks that we're about to discuss, well, you won't be reloading anyway, so reload speed is kind of redundant. Also, you can find a pennant mag in this column, which is going to bump you up to 66 in the mag with no penalty to reload. So if you get that, well, then it's not bad either. Now, on to column 3, where we're going to find 6 perks. Killing Wind, Outlaw, Autoloading Holster, Surplus, Zen Moment, and Subsistence. The new perk this year is Subsistence, replacing Grave Robber from last year. Now, just like last year, all the perks in this column are great. But even then, I'm gonna have to give the crown to Subsistence. It's really hard to beat Subsistence when the gun's main purpose is lots of ammo, keep shooting. And with Subsistence just constantly throwing ammo back in the mag as you get kills, well, you get my point. Now, if you aren't able to get a Subsistence roll, then the 2 runner-ups are Surplus for an increase to handling, reload speed, and stability for each fully charged ability, and Autoloading Holster for the ability to stow the weapon and just a few seconds later whip it back out with a full mag ready to go. And finally, column 4, where we find 6 perks: Swashbuckler, Vorpal Weapon, Dragonfly, Tap the Trigger, Opening Shot, and Adrenaline Junkie. Now, just like column 3, all these perks, baller. Literally all of them good. Now, with that being said, I'm going to have to give the best perk to the new perk this year, the one that replaced Unrelenting, Adrenaline Junkie. It recently got a buff where you no longer have to get a grenade kill to activate the perk, and instead gun kills can activate it as well. Though the grenade kill immediately gets you to ×5, where gun kills will go 1 stack at a time. It's also the highest damage dealing perk in the game when it's at ×5, and with unlimited ammo from Subsistence, well, you're going to be mowing through enemies. Now, with that being said, I still think Dragonfly is an excellent option for low-tier ad clear, aka what machine guns are currently meant for. Get a headshot and a few enemies are going to go down as well. All around, Avalanche is pretty good, and if MG's ever got a big buff or something like that, well, having a Subsistence Adrenaline Junkie roll at your disposal is going to be pretty nice. Weapon number 2 is the Cold Front. Cold Front is a 750 RPM aggressive frame kinetic SMG. Stats on the screen now, but let's get into the perks. For column 1, we're going to find 9 perks, and right off rip, I'm going to recommend anything that helps with stability, even if you're on M&K. This weapon has a grand total of, and wait for it, 16 stability. Yeah, that's not fun, no matter what input you play on. My 2 top recommendations are Polygon Rifling if you really need stability, aka you're on controller, or Small Bore if you don't need that much stability, aka you're on M&K, and want to squeeze out a little bit more range, while at the same time not having your gun go all over your screen while you're trying to shoot. Now for column 2, where we find 7 perks. I'm going to go ahead and say don't go with the mag perk, as the bump in mag size is quite negligible. I'm talking like 2 to 3 extra bullets. Instead, you should go for steady rounds if you need the stability, or accurized rounds if you don't need the stability. Like I just mentioned, are you on controller or are you on M&K? Then for column 3, where we have 6 perks. No perks were removed from last year, but a new one was added. Subsistence, Surplus, Quick Draw, Dynamic Sway, Under Pressure, and the new one that I was just talking about, Perpetual Motion. Now, just like the past 2 columns, you need to ask yourself, do you need stability or not? If the answer is yes, then you have some great options. Dynamic Sway for increased accuracy and stability while you're holding down the trigger. Surplus for an increase to handling, reload speed, and stability for each fully charged ability. Or the new perk this year, Perpetual Motion, which is essentially Surplus, increasing your handling, reload speed, and stability, but activates while you're moving around instead of requiring you to, not use your abilities. I would go with Perpetual if I were you, simply because I like spamming my abilities, but still want the increased handling, reload speed, and stability. Now, the other option, if you don't need stability, is going to be Subsistence. This perk used to suck on SMGs, but since Bungie removed the penalty to overall ammo count, well, it's pretty darn good, like A-tier good. So if you don't need stability, or you just want to suffer through the recoil for the ability to never stop shooting, then Subsistence is your perk. And finally, for column 4, we have 6 perks. Rampage, Surrounded, Thresh, One for All, Swashbuckler, and Harmony. Now, your best perk here is going to be One for All. It's a higher damage buff than both Surrounded, Rampage, and Swash, plus it doesn't even require you to get kills. Just hit 3 different enemies, even if they're immune, and bam, big damage increase for 10 whole seconds. I'm still sad about Dragonfly on Cold Front, but I understand that it was unintentional. It just still kind of hurts, Still though, this sub is very good and worth picking up, considering subs are pretty meta right now for PvE in the ad clearing department. Now, next up at number 3, we have Glacioclasm. Glacioclasm is a 1000 charge time high impact frame void fusion rifle. Stats on screen, and let's get into the perks. So in column 1, we're gonna have 9 barrel options. To be honest, it doesn't really matter too much. If you got something that's going to help with recoil and stability, even if you're on M&K, then that's fantastic. But column 1 doesn't matter compared to the other columns. Now, for column 2, where we find 6 battery perks, your number 1 pick here is going to be Liquid Coils for the increase to impact, literally putting the impact to a max of 100. Then for column 3, we find 6 perks. 4 of them are old perks from last year, and 2 of them are new, replacing 2 from last year. Now, I'm going to skip everything and tell you exactly what you want, either Subsistence or Slide Shot. This is due to the only perk you want in column 4, and I'm going to go ahead and tell you what it is. Reservoir Burst. Reservoir Burst is going to do increased damage and cause enemies killed by it to explode, which can then kill other enemies nearby. But Reservoir Burst is only active when the mag or / battery is full. So we need perks to help keep the battery full at all times, maximizing the uptime on Reservoir Burst. This is where Subsistence and Slide Shot come in. Subsistence is going to allow you to get a kill with Reservoir Burst active, and it'll immediately put a shot back in your mag, which will in turn fill your mag back up, activating Reservoir Burst once again. And from there, it's just constant Reservoir Burst until your ammo essentially runs out. This is for people that don't want to think about it and are mainly using Glacioclasm for ad clear, but Slideways can be even better if you want to ad clear, but also deal single target damage / boss damage. You can shoot a shot when Reservoir Burst is active, then slide, which will throw a shot back in the mag, activating Reservoir Burst again. This can be good for ad clear, as all you have to do is shoot, slide, but also dealing single target damage. Don't forget that Reservoir Burst not only causes enemies killed by it to explode, but also deals increased damage, about 30%. So if you're dealing damage to an ultra or boss, you can shoot, then slide, and keep pumping out that extra bonus damage. So yeah, Subsistence is great, but in my opinion, Slide Shot is better. Plus, once Particle is gone, it's going to be a little bit tougher to get one-shot kills, so having that 30% extra damage always active, no matter if you're getting a kill or not, is going to be really nice. All around, yes, you need Glacioclasm with this God Roll, because once Particle is gone, like I just mentioned, all the rapid fire fusions that are getting a ton of praise right now aren't going to be as good as they were, but high impacts are still going to be 1 to 2 bursting high health enemies. Seriously, if you have this roll, let me know, because I've still yet to get it, and I'm big jealous. And our final weapon on the list, weapon number 4, the newest weapon introduced with this year's donning, Zephyr? I think I'm saying this right. Zephyr? I'm just going to say Zephyr. is an adaptive frame stasis sword. Now, because this video is already running pretty long and this sword is pretty average when put alongside other adaptive frame swords, I'm just going to skip to the only reason you would use this sword or even farm for it. This sword is currently the only weapon in the game to have the perk Cold Still, and it rolls in column 4. This perk reads powered sword hits slow targets. Now, when just reading it, it sounds okay. You're doing damage to an enemy that you can't just one hit, and maybe they're moving around a bit. So hitting them with a powered sword hit will keep them from moving around as much, which will make doing damage a little bit easier. But where this perk really shines is with the seasonal artifact mod Focusing Lens. Focusing Lens requires an enemy to be affected by stasis, meaning someone on your team is going to have to run a stasis subclass, and because of that, they might have to give up a high damage dealing super like Thunder Crash, Nova Bomb, or even Golden Gun. But with this sword and Cold Still, well, no more. Just slap a target like a boss with a powered sword hit, then you and your teammates immediately pop your big damage dealing supers, light supers, because, well, honestly, I don't think any stasis supers are big dealing damage, so you probably got that anyway, but nonetheless. This way, you can still get the benefit of having Focusing Lens without needing to sacrifice damage. Now, even though it can activate your Focusing Lens, doesn't mean it should. By this, I mean giving up your power weapon slot could actually hurt your team's damage. Plus, the stasis effect from this sword is pretty short when compared to something like a dust-filled grenade, so just be mindful. This sword is really good for solo play when it's just you and you want to use Focusing Lens for increased damage, but may not be as good in a group environment when just staying back using something like Sleeper is just far more optimal. All around, Zephyr is a good sword with a great perk and definitely worth picking up. You can get one with Cold Still for just doing one of the donning quests, but if you can get one with Cold Still and Relentless Strike in column 3, well, then it's an absolute God roll. And that is all the donning weapons and their God rolls. Now, I mentioned that I'd talk about how to best farm these weapons, and well, it's quite easy. The 3 ingredients you're going to need is Taken Butter, which is acquired by defeating Taken, Electric Flavor, which is acquired by defeating enemies with arc damage, Essence of Donning, which I've made a guide on how to get thousands per hour, I'll link that video below, and Donning Spirit, which I included as a pinned comment on the video that I just mentioned that will be linked below. All these ingredients together enable you to make strange cookies, which can be turned into Xur. And with Xur being in the game now 24/7 at his treasure hoard trove thingy, well, you can turn them in at any time. Now, in order to farm the Taken Butter and Electric Flavor, you're going to want to use Throwaway and Shattered Throne with Trinity Ghoul. I've made multiple guides in the past showing you how to get to Throwaway even as a solo player, plus with it being a pretty known farm spot, I bet most of you all know how to get there, or I bet some of you all even have the checkpoint right now. Now, if you would like for me to make a dedicated guide for all of this, then let me know in the comments, and I gladly will. Once you have the cookies, just turn them into Xur, and then when he gives you a gift in return, take the gift to Eva Levante and focus them into one of her special boxes. This way, you'll have a 50-50 chance to get the weapon you want, compared to a 25% chance if you just open the gift in return as soon as you got them. And that is how to farm donning weapons. Like I said, if you want a more in-depth guide, then let me know. But with all that being said, if you enjoyed the video or found it useful, then feel free to slap a like on it, and I will catch you all in the next one. Peace.